Good evening and welcome. You're watching Left, Right and Centre. A quick look at the headlines at this hour. 2 speeches by the Prime Minister in Parliament in 4 hours, referring to the anti-CAA protests. He says anarchy is being spread in the name of protest. He says once silent members of the opposition are now becoming violent. Accusing the Congress of having been communal, the Prime Minister says for the Congress, they were Muslims, while for the BJP, they were always Indians, Hindustanis. Modi says, I am the person who people in Kashmir trust. He hits out at the 3 jailed ex-chief ministers, opposition to Article 370. But did Omar Abdullah actually make some of the remarks the Prime Minister said that he did? Continuing the attack, the Prime Minister says Nehru split India so that he could become Prime Minister. But is this assertion borne out by fact? A savage attack by Mr. Modi on Rahul Gandhi, who rose to challenge him. Modi says, I've been speaking for 40 minutes. It took this long for the current to reach. In a blistering attack in Parliament, the Prime Minister took on the opposition, particularly the Congress, on pretty much everything. Nehru, Kashmir, the economy, the CAA, the National Register of Citizens, and on who he believed was genuinely secular. On this program, we are joined by the Congress MP Gaurav Gogoi and the BJP's Vivek Reddy as we go through the points made by Mr. Modi, fact-check them and get responses. The first bit, the Prime Minister's views on anarchy and the anti-CAA protests.
कि अनेक हिस्सों में प्रदर्शन के नाम पर अराजकता फैलाई गई, जो हिंसा हुई उसी को आंदोलन का अधिकार मान लिया गया। बार बार संविधान की दुहाई उसी के नाम पर अनडेमोक्रेटिक एक्टिविटी को कवर करने का प्रयास हो रहा है। लेकिन अतीत की गलतियों के कारण पड़ोस में अल्पसंख्यक जो बन गए, उनके विरुद्ध जो चल रहा है उसकी पीड़ा आपको क्यों नहीं हो रही है? विपक्ष के अनेक साथी इन दिनों बहुत उत्साहित हो गए हैं, जो कभी साइलेंट थे आजकल वायलेंट हैं।
All right, some serious allegations over there. That last bit, the most significant. Let me go across to Gaurav Gogoi first. That very direct allegation, assertion by the Prime Minister that those leaders of the opposition who were peaceful first are now violent in terms of the anti-CAA protests, which he said was a part of anarchy. How would you respond?
Well, was it a minister from the Congress party who incited crowds to shoot? Was it a MP from the Congress party who painted one entire community as criminals? So it is his own government and his own ministers who are spewing hate and venom each day and night just to win the elections in Delhi. Unfortunately, the Prime Minister, when he started his second term, started with the slogan of Sabka Vishwas, intending to win everyone's trust. But here are people of India on the streets. They are reading the Constitution, they are afraid of their rights, they are afraid of the direction in which the country is heading to. And the Prime Minister has completely alienated them, completely isolated them.
Let me get a quick
Today
reaction.
He spoke like a BJP spokesperson, not like a Prime Minister.
Okay, Vivek Reddy, which opposition leaders who were peaceful earlier are violent now in the context of what the Prime Minister was talking about, the anti-CAA protests?
Well, it is the false narrative, it's the instigation, it is the fraud being played, it is the lies being spread. This is what the Prime Minister is referring to. This whole thing by the leaders, by the opposition, is to incite violence, to create anarchy, to say that the CAA is going to affect Indian Muslims. The Prime Minister has clarified and said that Indian Muslims will not be affected by CAA. This is not an act that takes away citizenship at all. So after all this, Vishnu, to come out and say, to come out and instigate and try to play around in between the flames that have arisen.
That is an
I
act
think
of violence,
this
is what you're
where
saying.
The Congress and the opposition
You're
parties.
saying, just so that
yes,
I
this is the
understand
anarchy
you.
that is being spread, and against innocent and illiterate people.
All right. So
Many
what
people are illiterate.
Vivek Reddy
It
is
sad
saying that
the
the
literate
act of
people are not
instigating
enlightening
people
them.
is an act of violence. That's the point that you're making. Let me just go to another point mentioned there by the Prime Minister. Gaurav, the Prime Minister said, why is it that you don't care for minorities in other countries? How would you respond to that point made by the Prime Minister?
Well, first of all, it is doubtful whether the Prime Minister is sincere about caring for the minorities in the neighboring countries. We've never heard the Prime Minister raise this issue when he's meeting his Bangladeshi counterpart, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Has he ever raised the issue of persecution of minorities there? And if he's so concerned about the persecution of minorities, then why is there a cut-off year of 2014? If 2019, if a minority is being persecuted in Pakistan, then the Citizenship Amendment Act doesn't refer to him. Prime Minister Modi made a lot of noise about how he touched the feet of Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, but in today's context, the person whose feet he touched in the past, if today his family member is being persecuted and wants to seek refuge and citizenship under CAA, Prime Minister Modi's law denies him that. Today, why is countries like Sri Lanka not on this list? Prime Minister pointed out historical facts related to the partition.
Okay,
which was a
Vivek, just
painful
quickly
period.
a reaction to
And
this
yes,
before
the
we go on to
Congress
another part
government
of
at
what the
that
Prime
point of
Minister
time-
says. Ghulam Nabi Azad
Vivek,
also in the Rajya Sabha today said that the main objection
can
of
I
the
just-
Congress
last
party
point.
was that, look, why aren't minorities from Nepal who are potentially persecuted, from Sri Lanka, from Burma, why are they not allowed? Why is it only on the basis of religion that some people from some neighboring countries are allowed into our country? How would you respond to that briefly before we go on
Well,
to
I
our
think
next
the
set?
act. Yes. Vishnu, I think the act makes it very clear. The statement of objects and reasons makes it very clear that this is whatever is promulgated under the act is a fallout of the partition of undivided India. So wherever the undivided India affected areas have created this religious persecution, because they said the basic premise was, they said, look here, you belong to that country. You are from the
Gaurav,
Indian
one
part.
second, I'll come
You
to
don't
you, yeah.
belong here because this is another nation, Islamic country. So therefore, because that was the underlying reason for persecution, the parliament
persecution
had
is
to address this issue.
persecution,
I'd
right?
like to ask Gaurav one question. Yes, no.
So then why is it that some people who are persecuted are allowed and other people who are not persecuted are not allowed? Because one is a Hindu and one is not a Hindu.
Let us first address the fallout of the ill effects of partition. I think that is what the parliament is now addressing.
All right, the ill effects of partition, you are talking about the larger issue. Gaurav, 30 seconds to respond to this, then I'll go to my next point. Gaurav, go ahead, yes.
Let me answer that.
Vishnu, I'd like to ask Gaurav, when Manmohan Singh said,
my
look here,
answer
we
is
need to
very
make a law.
simple.
Okay.
When Jawaharlal Nehru
Gaurav,
said,
answer that. Go
why
ahead,
was
yes.
Congress sitting quiet and doing nothing?
Citizenship Act. Vivek, listen, I did not interrupt him. Now listen to me. You asked me a question. The 1955 Citizenship Act made by the Congress government was an act in response to what happened to the horrors of partition. The Citizenship Act gave refuge and gave citizenship to those who fled from partition and
was
from the
not
horrors of
post
partition.
1955.
But nowhere in that act
It
has
was not the
particular
migration
religions been
post
maintained.
1955.
And nowhere in that act has particular religions been mentioned and other religions been omitted. In subsequent amendments to the Citizenship Act, never has there been specific religions being enumerated and others being excluded. This is the first time the BJP government is bringing an amendment to a Citizenship
the highest
Act
migration.
in which it is
Can I just
listing
come in, Vishnu?
particular religions and omitting others. Where can you point out any other
Vishnu?
country
Yeah,
in
yeah,
which
I
in
know.
its Citizenship Act, in its fundamental Citizenship Act,
Then
is
why did
enumerating
Manmohan Singh
religions and
say
omitting others?
recently?
All right, one second.
2012, he's on
Vivek,
record
I need
saying,
to
"We need to
interrupt
make a
you
law." But
because
why
we'll
did
end
you
up
do
discussing
anything?
only this point. I need to discuss other points. Now, on Kashmir, the Prime Minister hit out at the 3 ex-chief ministers in detention, but the National Conference has denied that the Prime Minister said the things, that he was correct in making the remarks on Omar Abdullah, saying that the Prime Minister misquoted the former Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, who's one of 3 ex-chief ministers in detention.
कुछ लोग कहते हैं कुछ नेता जेल में है, डिगना है, फलाना है, वगैरह वगैरह। महबूबा मुफ्ती जी ने 5 अगस्त को क्या कहा था? महबूबा मुफ्ती जी ने कहा था, भारत ने, ये शब्द बड़े गंभीर है, उन्होंने कहा था, भारत ने कश्मीर के साथ धोखा किया है। हमने जिस देश के साथ रहने का फैसला किया था, उसने हमें धोखा दिया है। ऐसा लगता है कि हमने 1947 में गलत चुनाव कर लिया था। क्या ये संविधान को मानने वाले लोग इस प्रकार की भाषा को स्वीकार कर सकते हैं क्या? उनकी वकालत करते हो? उमर अब्दुल्ला जी ने कहा था कि आर्टिकल 370 को हटाना ऐसा भूकंप लाएगा कि कश्मीर भारत से अलग हो जाएगा। फारूक अब्दुल्ला जी ने कहा था, फारूक अब्दुल्ला जी ने कहा था, 370 का हटाया जाना कश्मीर के लोगों की आजादी का मार्ग प्रशस्त करेगा। अगर 370 हटाई गई तो भारत का झंडा फहराने वाला कश्मीर में कोई नहीं बचेगा। ये वो लोग हैं जिनको कश्मीर की आवाम पे भरोसा नहीं है। हम वो हैं जिनको कश्मीर की आवाम पे भरोसा है।
Vivek, let me come to you first. That remark the Prime Minister says on Omar Abdullah talking about an earthquake apparently separating India and Pakistan if 370 went through, attributing that remark to Omar Abdullah. We couldn't find any record of that. Now, maybe our research was incomplete, but we asked the National Conference and they've gone on record to deny it. In fact, their spokesperson Imran Dar says every statement of Omar is in the public domain. He has not made any such statement. So did the Prime Minister get it wrong?
Well, I think the Prime Minister's speechmakers, speechwriters would have researched and there would be evidence of this. At some point of time, these statements would have been made. But broadly, what the Prime Minister was hinting was that the leaders of Jammu Kashmir have hinted at separatism, have hinted at the Jammu Kashmir splitting out of India if there is a threat of removing 370. The Prime Minister has only reinforced one thought in the spirit of the Constitution, that there is what is called as the broader integrity of India. If you really want to enjoy the benefits in India, you want to be a citizen of India, you want to enjoy the peace and prosperity of this nation, you want to build palaces, become rich, well then you must love this country. That is all that the Prime Minister has said.
So this love for the
It is
country
in the
when
interest of
Omar
this nation
Abdullah was a
that he has
Minister of
made this-
State in the NDA government, right? This love wasn't there then. What happened? I mean, his love for India
No,
disappeared.
well, the
overnight.
leaders have gone on record. Right? But when you have that love for India, you may be the Minister of India, then there is added responsibility for you not to say that we will have a separate flag for Pakistan if 370 is removed, that there will be earthquake when 370 is removed. Well,
I'm not sure he said that
more.
earthquake remark at all.
The responsibility
Just so that
is
we're
more.
sure about this. But let me go across to Gaurav Gogoi. Let me go across to
It has
Gaurav
been
Gogoi.
said.
Gaurav, the fact is that Omar Abdullah and Mehbooba Mufti, without any charges, specific charges against them, have been held for more than 5 months now. Isn't it about time that the process of democracy is restored in Jammu and Kashmir? These leaders are returned, because at this juncture nobody really knows how there is going to be a return to democracy if the main voices are stifled.
Well, first of all, if Prime Minister Modi trusted the people of Kashmir so much, then why did he keep them under an internet blockade and a curfew for so long? He should have not kept them because he trusted that they are with him, but he kept them on such an extended period of internet lockdown, which is one of the longest in the world today. Secondly, if there is something criminal and illegal which has been done by the former chief ministers, then please file a charge against them and follow the legal process. But there are no charges, no legal process has been followed. Yet, on the other hand, you have party leaders from BJP saying go ahead and shoot. Please, party leaders from the BJP who have been banned from campaigning by the Election Commission, party leaders who should be filed, against whom a case under Section 153 should be filed, and they should be imprisoned for 3 years. So if Prime Minister Modi finds nothing with the remarks of Yogi Adityanath, Prime Minister Modi finds nothing with the remarks of Parvesh Verma, Prime Minister Modi finds nothing with the remarks of Amit Shah or with the remarks of Anurag Thakur. Prime Minister himself says you can identify protesters by the clothes they wear. They can make all these kind of comments, yet when it comes for them, they are above the law. These standards do not apply to them. These are not unconstitutional for them.
Gaurav,
these are not against the IPC for them.
And Vivek,
this is a clear case of political vendetta.
You know, we are told that it's quite likely that Omar Abdullah and Mehbooba Mufti may be charged with the Public Safety Act. There is no order at this juncture, but the possibility of that taking place is very strong, because it's only in a finite period of time that they could be detained, I believe, till tomorrow or day after. After that, they compulsorily had to be released. But there are already 3 leaders today who've been charged with the PSA, which allows detention in Jammu and Kashmir without trial for a period of, which allows detention in Jammu and Kashmir for a period of 2 years. 2 years, there is a strong possibility that these 2 leaders could be charged with the PSA. Farooq Abdullah already faces the PSA. If this is true, and we are told that there is a very strong possibility of this happening, what would your reaction, Gaurav, be to that?
I think it's a clear case of human rights violation. And this is what all of media, whether national or international, are saying. That today India is no longer the beacon of democracy or the beacon of civilization. India under Prime Minister Modi has become dictatorial. Prime Minister Modi, unable to solve the problems of economy, is trying to distract the people of India by trumping up false charges against former chief ministers, having political vendetta, and arm twisting the law to keep them behind the bars. I think it's a clear case of human rights violation. They have the power right now, but I'm sure history will remember that this is a Prime Minister who got a big mandate, and instead of solving the problems of record unemployment, instead of solving the problems of plummeting GDP, used this to just target political opponents and arm twisted the law, bend laws to put people behind bars.
Vivek, just a few days before Omar Abdullah and his father were put behind bars, effectively, they met the Prime Minister for a fairly convivial meeting. In fact, the Prime Minister tweeted about that. There are pictures about that. Now there is very serious talk, and you know, we've got reports coming in that it may well be just a matter of time before the Public Safety Act is imposed on these 2 leaders. This is something used against stone pelters, against rioters, against those who are potential terrorists, against hardcore separatist leaders. Wouldn't it be a failing of our democracy if the Public Safety Act was put against 2 former chief ministers? The third one is already under the PSA.
Well, I think I'll have to just come back on a small point raised by Gaurav. First of all, Kashmir is a place where 3 poisonous elements have come together or merged together. One is the separatists, the second is the anti-national forces propounded by Pakistan, and the third is the jihadist forces. I think this makes it a very venomous cocktail of anti-India forces that are working in Kashmir today. In view of this Public Safety Act, isn't it elementary? Isn't it essential that the Kashmir state must be protected from the
Mehbooba
assault
Mufti
of
was
these
your
forces?
partner till a few months
Second
back.
thing,
The BJP had the government in Jammu and Kashmir with Mehbooba Mufti as
the
chief
potential
minister. So she became anti-national
Yes,
and
she may be.
Pakistan supported and all of that overnight.
No, she may be, but because the present situation and scenario in Kashmir.
No, I'm asking you
the
about
scenario
3
in
leaders.
Kashmir is such
Farooq, Omar and
that
Mehbooba.
these leaders,
They have been in jail for what, more than 5 months now, right? Isn't it time they came out? There's no charge against them. And now there's talk of the PSA.
Government must have information, number one. Second, the larger exigencies and circumstances of maintaining peace and order I think this is very essential.
But
because
that
these
is directly
leaders can run
associated
havoc.
with
And that potential has to
but
be.
how can you presume that the release of these leaders is going to result in violence?
Well, they must have the intelligence. How can Vishnu and Vivek Reddy decide? This is number one. Second is, we are gone from the Congress mindset days. What was the Congress mindset days? The Congress mindset was, look here, even if there are anti-national forces,
The emergency
even
and
if
all
there
of
are
that. So this
separatist
is not
forces, the
Congress
used to
versus
say,
BJP.
Let
I
me
can
just
list
tolerate,
several cases
let us just
when
tolerate.
sedition
Hota
was
hai.
used by the Congress,
That
when
is not
the
the
emergency was
situation
imposed.
today.
But let's talk about
When
today.
India.
No,
when-
Vivek.
No, I'm talking about
let's,
Kashmir.
you know, I mean, this Congress,
I'm talking
BJP.
about the mindset of Congress over Kashmir.
The mindset of the Congress, I mean, it's awful what has happened in the past. Let's talk about now. Let's talk about Kashmir. Wouldn't
Then how
it
do you
be,
co- how do you-
wouldn't
how do
it
you make
sadden
the break?
you,
How
Vivek,
do you
as an
make the
Indian,
break?
to see three leaders, ex-chief ministers, continue indefinitely in jail? Okay, not indefinitely, for up to 2 years, right? Shouldn't there be a process where people
ex-chief
disagree on the
ministers have
ground?
the potential. No. If ex-chief ministers have the potential to cause disarray, to cause disorder, they have the potential to lay down a false narrative, to misguide the people of Jammu and Kashmir. I think it is essential in the larger integrity of social order, the integrity of the nation, that these ex-chief ministers are made to understand that they cannot play around like they used to do in Congress
So you
days.
basically
During
gag
Congress
them.
days,
Is that what
anything
you're
they said,
suggesting?
even anti-India,
You throttle
was
them,
digested.
if not physically, then otherwise you throttle them, their ability to speak, you threaten
There is
them
no
and say,
question
if
of
you
throttling.
talk, then you're in
There
for
is
more
no
jail
question
time.
of throttling.
No, but
There is a
I mean,
plea
what
or
is it that
request
we
to
do
them
in this country?
not
We
to
debate,
indulge
we
with these forces.
debate, we agree, we
There is
disagree.
no-
I mean, that's
on.
what you and I are doing. What's wrong with that? Right? Why can't that, why can't
Well,
that
we may
the essence
disagree.
of our democracy continue?
We can disagree, but what I am trying to ask you is, it is not mere disagreement. This is what I am trying to debate. It is not mere disagreement. If it ends with disagreement, it is okay. But playing with the forces there in Kashmir, with the
What-
leaders
how can-
aligning
how-
with
how
certain
can they
forces,
play with the
this
forces?
may mislead the people. And
The
this
forces
may
are
lead to
all
potential
supreme in
breakdown
Jammu
of
and
social
Kashmir.
order.
You have been there, I have been there. There is a massive CRPF,
Vishnu, can I
police,
come in?
army deployment. The fight is against terrorism. These
Well,
people
at
are
least
not
that is
terrorists.
keeping-
They are pro-India
At
political
least-
leaders
at
who have a
least-
different
at
view.
At least that has ensured, for once in Kashmir, guns have been silenced. For once in Kashmir, stone throwing has been silenced. For once in Kashmir, we are finding some
So,
peace.
Gaurav, this is the
For
point
once
that
in
the
Kashmir,
BJP,
people are
mentions
allowed to live
repeatedly.
their lives.
We've heard the army chief say this as well. And I want you to answer this question, our last comment on this program, that with these leaders behind bars, we see an improvement in the law and order situation. Therefore, indirectly, there is some sort of linkage which is being drawn that if these leaders are out, then there will be violence. Do you accept this?
No, absolutely not, Vishnu. The message from the Prime Minister is very clear that if you oppose the Prime Minister, he is going to put you behind bars. Today, it's the former Chief Ministers of Jammu and Kashmir. Tomorrow, it could be any other Chief Minister or former Chief Minister, any political opponent. We have seen what has happened with the former Union Finance Minister being behind bars for 100 days
Gaurav,
as well.
every
the message is very
Congress
clear. The BJP
spokesperson,
should just
and
stop
Vivek,
calling
let him-
themselves
let-
a democratic
Vivek,
party.
he didn't say a word.
They are
Let him make
behaving
his
like
Congress leader
like
is
a
attacking
Latin
the Prime
American
Minister.
dictator. They are behaving like they are showing the worst tendencies of dictatorship. It is very clear. Today, if
This is
Vajpayee ji would be so sad
anti-Modi
to see
hate
that
of
the
the highest
person that
order.
he advised of following your Rajdharm, the Vajpayee ji who talked about Insaniyat, Jamhuriyat, Kashmiriyat, Vajpayee ji talked to even separatists. He had gone to that extra mile to find peace. And look at what
The
path
problem
that Prime
is
Minister
Congress
Modi
has
is
become
following.
desperate. It knows the game is over.
It's
It looted
unfortunate,
this country.
It's regrettable.
Now there is a honest
Prime
Prime Minister.
Modi has forgotten
They have
his
no
own
answer.
guru.
So they are
it was
resorting to
because of
hate
Prime
Modi
Minister
campaign.
Vajpayee's blessing
this is
This is
another
not
false
this is not
narrative.
hate
Prime
Modi.
Minister Modi survived
This
when
is
he was
not hate
Gujarat
Modi.
Chief
I mean,
Minister
it's
and the
absolutely
Gora
about what's
Cartel
happening
in
took place.
Kashmir, no?
But
What
today
else?
we are far
They
away.
cannot
All right,
come
from
down
Gaurav
praise
and
the Prime
Vivek, I need
Minister
to
for
wrap
anything.
this up,
Kashmirian.
but I also
I
need
think
to
it's
inform our
absolutely
viewers
sad.
that
The
two more
message is
detained
clear.
leaders
If
in
you
Jammu and
oppose-
Kashmir, Ali Mohammed Sagar of the National Conference and Sartaj Madhavi of the PDP, have been booked under the PSA, the Public Safety Act, in Jammu and Kashmir means that people can be detained for a period of 2 years. Now, there are different provisions of the PSA. I don't know the provisions that they've been booked under, but this can also be an eventuality, 2 years. And we don't know now whether it's going to happen with two of these three chief ministers, former chief ministers. One of them, Farooq Abdullah, already under the PSA. We are told that the possibility is very, very strong for Mehbooba Mufti and Omar Abdullah to be booked under this very stringent act. We'll take a short break. More coming up.